What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes checking in here on a Saturday, man, before UFC 305. We're going to talk to one of the best coaches in the sport of mixed martial arts. Been doing it for a long time. And Coach Wood, if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be like your third champ you're going to be working with this year. Zhang Wei Li already in the books, another title defense for her. Merab Dvalishvili, he's going to perform in September. And then a few weeks later, just got announced Khalil Rountree gets the title opportunity against Alex Pereira. Man, what's in the secret sauce over at
Yeah, man,
Syndicate?
it's been a crazy good year, dude. I've been working with Whaley for her last 3 or 4 camps now, and so that's been really cool. And then Rob's been on the path, for the last few years also. And then obviously he's just worked his butt off to get where he's at, and now the whole Khalil thing. I've been with him for about the last 10 years, and so. He's paid his dues and hitting his stride, and which, man, it's been a hell of a year. And the end of this year is looking really good for us. So we're just all super excited and stoked for everybody. And man, it's kind of surreal.
With all of us being in Vegas, we've seen Khalil all the way through Tough Enough and then 10 years as a professional. Can you talk about that journey and how happy you were to hear the news that he was getting the title shot?
Yeah, the Khalil one's a little different as he's been with me for so long. And, you know, I think I started working with him about his first or second pro fight. And Khalil's an interesting dude. He's a real, just unique character, real great, good person, good heart. When we first got into this, or when I first started coaching him, I think he was on the verge of, really like not even knowing if he wanted to fight. And I remember having a conversation with him. He was talking about retiring and going into construction because he had a good construction job that was going to pay him a lot. And I kind of begged and pleaded with him and just said, "Hey, man, you know, just give me 6 months. Give me 6 months, and we can. I think we have you where you need to have you where you need to be." And lo and behold, the Ultimate Fighter came up, and that just kind of started that whole thing. And then obviously through that process, through the Ultimate Fighter, he really hadn't come into his own. Ever since the beginning, Khalil's been a special guy. And I think that was kind of the thing from the start. Is even before he came to me, he was always, there was even before I knew him, there was the rumblings of this guy Khalil Rountree, who's supposed to be the next big thing, the next Anderson Silva. He was the low key knocking out legends in the sport, behind the scenes. And so, when he got to the UFC and got in through the Ultimate Fighter, it was a lot, and he was just in a kind of a different place. And so we had some ups and some downs and had some fairly decent success coming off of it. But there was a point in time where he, went off to Thailand, wanted to go. Khalil's a guy that just likes to have experiences, and he just kind of follows his shall we say, dreams, thoughts, whatever it is going on in his mind. And he went out there and had some ups and downs out there in his career. And then a few years back, about five, 6 fights ago, he hit me up and said, "Hey, I think it's time to come back. I want to come back if that's good." And I said, "Absolutely. I love the kid." And we got back, and it's just like we never missed any time together. And he just really came back as a whole new person. You could see that the focus, the energy, the everything was different, and his mentality. He just grew up a lot, and he's really kind of come into his own. And I think that's what the mindset is he's ready for this, and he's been ready for this now for the last couple of years, and now we're really starting to see, we're starting to see everything play out. We're starting to see the talent, and the mindset all come together, and the work ethic and everything, and that's why we're here where we're at, on this verge of winning a title.
Khalil, it surprised many in mixed martial arts that he's getting the shot. Magomed Ankalaev has a nice resume, but Rountree's got, maybe it's because he's more of a quiet guy, but he's got 5 fights won in a row. 4 of them have been finishes. Um, And you just said it. I was about to ask you, like, he didn't just trip into this situation. You feel like he's ready to be a world champion in early October.
Yeah, listen, we've been primed for this. This is something that when he came back, he knew we were shooting for. You know, he had in his mind that he was ready to be world champion, and I believe that Khalil, once he puts his mind to whatever it is he wants to do, he's going to do it. And I think that we were on that path. We were supposed to fight Jamal. That fight got offered, and then things happened and got taken away, and they got re-offered, and then taken away, and then this came up. But I mean, I would at this point in time put Khalil in there with the best of the best, and obviously we're going to be in there with the best of the best, the boogeyman, so to speak. And I think that he's going to shock the world. This isn't anything new for him. He's been put up with these tests before. Like Gokhan Saki came into the UFC as the best, arguably the best striker in the world at that point in time, and he went out there and knocked him out. And
You're right. That's a
he
good
was very,
pull.
very confident in that point in time of, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to knock him out. And that's what he did, and I think that obviously we realize that we're fighting, the best guy in the world, the biggest name in the world right now. But I think that the stars and the moon and everything is aligned up for us. And I think he's ready to handle it. And I think he's going to. And I think that any of these guys coming up that you put him in with, people keep going back to, 8 fights ago, oh, his mental, he's this, he's that. I'm like, dude, that's the old Khalil and some things where we had ups and downs, and that ain't there anymore, and it hasn't been there, And I think after this fight, you're still gonna have the same jackasses that are, oh, well, it was lucky, he got lucky with this fight, and that's just MMA, that's sports in general. People are always going to be the naysayers and the shit talkers and the things that go on with that, and that's fine. That's what makes sports, and but he's ready, man, and I don't see any test, any person put in front of him that's going to be too big.
You know what? It's interesting. So I want to kind of explain this to people. He's not weird. He's just different. Like he looks at things differently, and he's like a breath of fresh air when you sit down and you think about it. And when you think about the situation he's in, you almost need somebody with that mindset to look at this matchup differently, because everybody looks at him as the boogeyman, right? Poatan. So I can't think of a guy that's really mentally in a better situation to handle a challenge like this than him. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? Like, how has it been coaching him? Not just the pads and the work, but just sitting down and getting on the same wavelength up here for both of you guys.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing from before. Like I said, when he left to go to Thailand, I don't think that we were all synced up like we are now. There's just something about him when he came back. He matured. He became, he's become the man that everybody around him knew he would become. And then I think he's ready for it. Like I said, Khalil's a special dude, not only talented, but he's just, like you said, he's different. He's a guy that he's a free spirit. He's a smart guy. He's a thinker, and he follows his heart and emotions a lot. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But I think, like I said, we are synced up now, and we are having, the best training that we've ever had as a coach and a fighter. And he's one of those guys, when he left originally, it did hurt. Like I said, I love the guy. And, anytime a fighter leaves, it's always, it's kind of it's an emotional thing. But like I said, he came back, and it's way better than I think it ever could have been. He grew into himself. He's, like I said, matured as a man. He looks at things different, the way he speaks, the way he talks. It's just different now. And, we've found our way of like working together. I've found my way to, back in the day, there's sometimes where as a coach, you see people doing stuff and you're like, no, don't do that. It's bad for you, or this, you try to steer them in the way, in the directions that you think they need to go. But everybody's different, and you have to learn as a coach how to work with each individual. And that was something I just think that, took time for him to trust me, to trust the process, and to trust the people around him. And I think he's a very small group of people around him, and he trusts them all. And that's where we're at now. It's all starting to lead. Everything's coming to fruition, and everything is paying off. And I've learned to kind of, not with just Khalil, but everybody, let that fighter be the individual they need to be. And that usually works better to get results like we're getting now.
John, I wanted to touch a little bit on the evolution of coaching because, as George mentioned, you have been doing this a long time and the game has changed a lot in that time period. And one thing I wanted to ask you about was social media and the presence that it has in our sport. There are, the main event this weekend, Israel Adesanya, Dricus du Plessis, they go at each other a lot when they're not even around each other, right? And you kind of see the mind frame of different fighters and you go, oh man, that guy looks a little shook, or this guy's over here partying this night or doing this, or this guy's in Thailand. How much does social media play in coaching? And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, does it come down to X's and O's? Or as a coach, do you kind of look at some of these things and go, all right, this guy's doing this, he's doing that, he's thinking that, he's posting this? Does it ever play a role in what you have to do to prepare fighters?
Absolutely. Like I'm not I don't want to say I hate social media, because it is a necessary part of life and business, and not only as a gym owner, how we promote, how we move, how fights get promoted, how our business gets promoted. But yeah, I mean, as a coach, I believe once you start thinking that you have figured it out and that you know everything and that you're the guy and that everybody needs to listen to you, that's where I think the decline happens. For me, I'm looking at what other coaches are doing, what other teams are doing, where they're having success. I watch YouTube. I'll go buy, people's videos, or I'll go find whatever their instructionals. Most of it's just watered down fluff because a lot of us don't want to give the secret. But like, I try to watch what everybody's doing. I try to watch what the newest things are, where the trends are, what's working in fights, what's not working. And, I try to implement that into my system. I've rebuilt my entire coaching staff over the last 2 years. I've restructured how we do the programs. I've brought people in that, have collegiate backgrounds in sports, pro sports, and how they run teams. I've really studied on leadership, culture, working on those different things. And that's where the last 2 years I've honestly been focusing on the culture of the gym, how to relate with the fighters without pushing too hard or not pushing hard enough. And yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I look at everything. I watch what everybody does. I see the goods and the bads, not to, imitate or whatever, but yeah, if there's something being done, if people are willing to post what they're doing, or people are willing to put videos out, or yeah, you hear these things, or you hear this guy's going to do this or do that. Like, it's not just social media; it's just across the board. Like, the internet is full of information and full of videos and full of things that, I've done lots of camps just from game plans, from finding what other coaches have posted on on their YouTube and things, and it's worked. So it's just it's a part of the game, and you have to be careful with it. We have fighters in the gym that can't get fights at all because of their Instagram. I've got more guys shutting down their Instagrams right now because the guys that are on the come up, because guys won't take fights with them because they go on their Instagram and look at what they've done, or who they train with, or how, where they're from and their background. So it is a curse and a blessing. And for myself, I use it as a learning tool. Like I said, for me, I'm a student. I train 4 or 5 days a week. I still spar with my guys. I still roll. I love jujitsu. I do jujitsu 2-3 times a week. I try to move around there and lead by example. And so if I can learn more, then that's what I'm going to try to do, because I want to keep learning, because that's the great thing. And the hard thing about MMA is it's constantly evolving. Our sport is constantly evolving. 2 years ago, the calf kick wasn't a thing, and now it's a thing, even though people have been doing it for a long time, but it worked in one fight, and all of a sudden, boom, now it's a thing. So there's always new grappling moves, new submissions, new things that we have to stay up on. And I want to make sure that my team and my coaches are all capable and working to put out the best version of our fighter that we can.
I'm going to be a little bit of a ball hog and ask you more questions because I'm fascinated by the coaching aspect of everything, a new wrinkle that is going to be thrown your way. You have Merab Dvalishvili, and he's fighting in the Sphere. Not a lot of people have been in the Sphere, let alone seen what a fight night is going to look like.
Yeah.
That is going to be strange. And I wanted to ask you, what, how important is it going to be to maybe get into that Sphere early once that cage is constructed, and just kind of walk around and know what the imaging is going to be like for the fighters? That whole environment is going to be so different to everyone. Is there going to be an importance to getting your guy out there and almost like, I know you're a movie fan, but remember Rocky when he walked the arena the night
Yeah.
before, and just kind of do that and just figure what all this is going to be like?
Yeah, it'll be really interesting because usually, when they do the press conferences and the weigh-ins, it's at the event. So it's really interesting to see if they're going to do that, the ceremonial weigh-ins, which I imagine they would. So I'm thinking that we're going to be in there, before fight night, hopefully, and get a kind of a glimpse, because everybody's, that's the biggest thing. The biggest question I get asked is, what do you think it's going to be? How do you think it's going to be? What do you think it's going to look like? I mean, we kind of saw with the NHL draft go on how crazy looking that was. I got to imagine it's going to be that times 10. Um, there's a lot of fighters that I do think will get caught up in that moment, and it is a really cool, crazy thing. Merab is not one of those guys, though. Merab is 110% focused on going out there and beating whoever is in front of him. I don't see it being too big of a problem mentally, or any kind of like, oh my God, like it's going to be cool. But Merab is one of those guys, when he locks in, he locks in. And you've heard the stories, you've heard the things, like that dude does literally, he'll go 5-6 sparring rounds right before he walks out, as he's, as his warm up, him and Aljo, like they'll go at it. It's crazy. And like, I've never seen somebody who's so locked in and focused, it just doesn't matter about whatever's going on. He's going to go out there and handle the task. So I think the Sphere is going to be awesome. I think we're all going to be blown away. I think we're all, chomping at the bit to figure out what it's going to, what the setup's going to be like. But come fight night, I don't think it's going to matter for Merab.
Yeah, and he's a big not a big favorite, but he's a favorite over O'Malley, who's kind of proven himself along the way.
Yeah.
But still, that's how much the odds makers think of, I guess, the pacing, his activity, you know what I mean? His wrestling. Does that ever matter when a fighter is, I'll give you the odds that we're hearing as well for Rountree. He's about a plus 350.
Yes.
So now the odds makers are saying, we don't think he got a chance against the boogeyman, but with Merab, he's the favorite. Does that ever mess with the fighters and having to massage egos or instill confidence in them, because of now gambling's a bigger aspect in our sport?
I haven't run into the experience where someone has, I think if it is something that the fighters do, experience, that's something they keep in the back of their brain. I think everybody always knows you're the favorite or the underdog. It's out there. What we just talked about with social media, you can't get away from hearing those things. Someone's going to tell you. I haven't experienced as a coach anybody being completely, blown away, like, oh my God, I'm the underdog. It's usually used as motivation. If anything, I find it to be when you're, favored so heavily, the pressure's on you. The pressure's on you. You have to go out and do this thing. Like, if you're meant to lose, where's the pressure at? Other than obviously, no one wants to lose, but like, I think that's always the easier go, is when you're the underdog, you've got everything to gain. Like, you lose. Obviously, fighters don't want to lose. I don't want to lose as a coach, but that's, it is what it is. With Merab and O'Malley, I am, I'm surprised just because of O'Malley, what he's been doing, that he is, at being the champ. But here's the thing with that is, there's a lot of really good strikers, and I'll give it up. Like, Sean he's a sniper, he's a specialist, and Sean's very well rounded everywhere. He's got a good coach, they have a good game plan. They come out and they do good things, and he's a very, like, he's a specialist. And like I said, and I say that, with respect, because like he is good on the ground. He is good at avoiding takedowns. But there's a lot of really, really good strikers. And there's guys that we have in the gym that, world champions that are, able to, simulate that style of striking. And I'm not going to say they're as good as Sean because, like I said, he's the champ. So, um, but there's nobody out there that you can bring in that will simulate what Merab is going to do for 5 rounds. And it's a pretty clear cut case of we know what they want to do. We know what they know what we want to do. It's just about how we implement those game plans. And I'm going back to it is that I'm not surprised that Merab's the favorite. I'm not surprised that Khalil's the underdog. I mean, we got just two different types of things going on there, and right now, you know, with the Khalil situation being the underdog, I think that line will close. I think you'll see that line close closer to the fight because right now, I mean, even though he's been on a tear lately. I still think, he's the dark horse of where people don't really know who he is or what he's capable of yet. And so once the casuals kind of do a little research and catch on, I think you're going to see that line close. I imagine he'll obviously, Pereira's like I said, he's the boogeyman. He's the best in the world of that division right now. But there's a lot of things stylistically I see Khalil being able to take advantage of. So that's what.
And you brought up a good point. That was an excellent pull back in 2018 when Gokhan Saki came over. They thought he was going to run through Rountree if the fight remained standing, and that did not happen. I'm glad you brought that up, and I bet you that could impact the line in the next few months as we get closer to the fight, when people start breaking down his past against other notable strikers. Because like you said, they don't get more notable than what Gokhan Saki did in his kickboxing career.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's close with two more real quick ones. Zhang Weili, do you think we'll see the champ back in 2024? I think we're waiting on Tatiana Suarez to get healthy, right? Is that what you're hearing? Are you hearing about maybe other possible options?
Yeah, I think that Tatiana's obviously the next obvious go. Waiting for her to get healthy. We'll have to see what goes on there. Um, Part of the team kind of reached out. I spoke to somebody yesterday. Just kind of we're in the waiting to hear process. I think that it's very possible that we do see her, maybe on a December card or early next year. I don't know if it's going to be Tatiana. That obviously, if she's healthy, I believe that all signs point to her, but I don't know that she's going to, I've heard conflicting things there to see if that fight, we might have to take something else just to stay active. I know Weili likes to stay active, and there's the rumblings of all that stuff kind of happening right now. So I think here in the next month we'll kind of hear something about that.
Last one from me is, what would you say is an ingredient that every Syndicate MMA fighter has or must have so that they can be successful?
So one thing that we are working on as a team right now is the culture of the team. Our room is packed full of killers. It's a great room. You step in there right now. The vibe is awesome. The coaching staff is awesome. The one thing that, we all work as a unit, as a family. It's an individual sport, but we are a team at Syndicate. And, if you're, shall we say, you have a massive ego, you're just, let's say, kind of a dick or whatever it be, you won't fit in with us. You're going to come in and you're going to grind your ass off and you're going to get your hard work, but we're all there, like I said, to build each other up. So being something, we look for is being a good teammate, being a good partner, being somebody who's coachable, multiple things in the facets of that room. And we have, like I said, a room full of 75 fighters right now that are all helping each other get better. They're all there to work as a team to, push your partner to achieve everything they can. And that's what I say, like, the culture of the gym right now is killing it. And that's why we're getting, such good success and on such a good roll this last couple of years. So just, being a team player, being somebody who's willing to work your ass off and come in there and, check your ego at the door and come in and do what you need to do.
I love it. Coach Wood, thanks for the time here on a Saturday, right before UFC 305. By the way, since it is before 305, who did you go with? DDP or Pereira? Did you already tell everyone publicly or anything? Who
So
do you like?
I'm a fan of both. I really like Drakus. I think that the X factor is if Izzy comes out and is in Izzy form, if from what I've heard behind the scenes, he's in great shape. He's back to doing what he's doing. If the Sean Strickland, fight was a fluke, I don't know how you bet against that guy. I really don't. I don't know how if you get top form Izzy, I think that you're looking at him regaining the title. If not, then I think it's Drakus all day. So it's so hard. You got two guys that are such good, talented fighters. It's hard to bet against either one of them. But I think we'll know in the first round, man. That's about as best as I can go. I don't. I really honestly don't know. It could be a toss up either way.
Did you read? Did you read anything into him getting emotional at that press conference? Was that anything or?
So yeah, it's funny you say that. I watched that this morning and I was like, man, that kind of I was all Izzy thinking, from what I just said, but I do think that Drakus has got him emotional, and I do think that's going to play a factor into the fight. So he did kind of swing me with that press conference there.
All right. Coach, again, thanks for the time here. Really appreciate it. Congrats on all your success. You got some big fights coming up to finish out what's already been a pretty fabulous year.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.